So our next step is to actually bring in something made from outside of Unity. So if you've made something in Maya, we're going to go ahead and bring that in. Now, what I want to do here first before we get started is I want to make sure I select my my cube here, or I'm sorry, my plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to increase its size. So I'm going to just scale it up here. It gives us more room for activities. Alright, so I've got my space increased here. Unfortunately, the side effect is that it also increases the texture because this is not a fully textured object. It's just stretching it across here. So, what I want to do is I want to take my, I'm going to bring in some stuff here. Now, the first step, when you are importing an object from, let's say, Maya, the first thing you want to do is you want to import the textures first. You can do it in the other way, but then it requires more work. So what I'm going to do is go back here to Assets. I'm just going to click on that. I don't have to, but it makes organization better. So I go back here to Assets, and I'm going to drag in any textures that I'm going to use for the object I'm importing. So I'm just going to drag in this texture here. All right. Now I'm going to bring in my table that I'm going to do. Now this is a simplified object. It took a lot of work to make, you know. I don't know if you'll be able to reach this level. It's, you know. So I'm going to bring in my my model here, right? So this is my file that I created in Maya. To import it, there are two things. First of all, make sure that you have the right version of Maya installed, whatever one you created this in, installed on your machine. Because what happens in the background when I drag this over like this is that Maya or Unity will go open up a kind of a smaller version of Maya and do the conversions that it needs to open the file. So in the background, it's opening up a little bit of Maya, converting it to what it wants, and then placing it in. All right. So here we have the table. All right. I can actually bring it directly in right now if I want to. So I'm just going to drag it in here and show you what it looks like. Isn't that an amazing table? So I just drag it in here. All right, and I'm going to hit play on this and we'll take a look at it here. All right, so I've got my table here, and it's right there. And unfortunately, it won't stop what I'm doing. Whoops. So what I'm going to do is we're going to fix that. All right. So there are ways that we can do this. We can do it manually, or we can do it automatically. I'm going to show you the manual way first, because you can come up with a cleaner, more efficient collision than it can do it automatically. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side under Hierarchy, and you'll notice that Table is there. So I can click the little arrow next to it, and you'll see the different parts that this is made of. All right, so I've got a P cube 1, which is that cube on the top, and then the 4 cylinders that make up the feet. All right, so I'm going to start off with the cube at the top. All right, and what I want to do is I want to add a feature to this cube. All right, So if you are a programmer and you understand object-oriented programming, Maya uses a Haso model. All right. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. All right. Basically, what it is we add objects to something. So I'm going to add component here, and what I want to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to find physics. All right, and then I'm going to find box collider, because that's basically a box, right? So we hit box collider, all right, and it's added the box collider to it. I'm going to hit play now, and we'll take a look at that. All right, so we'll walk up to it. Ethan's head runs into it, right? If I hold down C to crouch, I can walk underneath it, and of course, I can still walk through the legs. Cool. So that's part of it. Now, if there was never a chance of me walking under it, I could just do that. I could just have that top collision there and be done with it. But because I can walk under it, I need to actually handle these cylinders. All right, so let me go ahead and take care of that. Let's go ahead and select these cylinders. So I could do one at a time, but I'm a programmer, so kind of lazy. So here's what we do. We select the first one, hold down Shift, select the last one. So they're all selected. And I'm going to hit the Add Component. And we're going to go down here to Physics. All right, and we're going to look at all these here. Now, we have different ones here. So we have the Box Collider. Those aren't really boxes, so that wouldn't work. Capsule Collider creates like a pill. Unfortunately, the ends are rounded, and that won't quite work for us. Either they'll stick out the top, or things could run into the base and go into it. So that's not going to work. This isn't a character. It's not a joint. It's not cloth. It's not a sphere. So we're not going to use that. It's not terrain, and it's not a wheel. So the one really left that we'll worry about here is Mesh Collider. So a Mesh Collider is a collider that takes the geometry of the object and creates a collider out of it. Basically, it stops you from going inside of it. Now, it is not very efficient. In fact, it's very inefficient. So you try to use the least number of these as you can. So I'm going to click and add that to all four of those. All right, so it's been added to all four. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit play on this, and we will see that we can now run into the legs. All right, so we're going to run into the legs there. Cool. All right, so that's the difficult way of doing it, but the most efficient way of doing it. Now, let me show you the easier way, but less efficient way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this table for now, because I've made changes to it. I'm just going to right-click on the very top part of it and choose Delete. All right, and we'll bring it back in. All right, so I'm going to just drag this in here as soon as it lets me. There we go. All right. And again, it's back to the way it was. We can either run into it or we can pop it open and look at the different parts there. So you notice the collider is no longer there. Now, what we can do is we can go over here and select it down at the bottom here in the project browser. All right. So if we select it down here, we can actually modify our project right here. We can not the project, but the file we're importing. We can do things like we can change its scale. We can choose, if we go here, generate colliders. If we click that, we can check that. And one of the other things that we have to check now is we have to, we have to hit apply. Okay, so we've applied it. All right. And we're going to hit play. And you'll notice that we can run into it now. If we hold down C, we can actually go underneath and run into the legs. Now, like I said, it's more inefficient. So if I click on pCube1, it's a mesh collider now. So that could have been a cube collider and it would have been more efficient, but it's not. All right. So we have that now. There are some other things that we can go into if you are working with certain things. For example, if you apply physics to an object, which we'll mess with here in a little bit, you'll need to apply read-write enabled. All right, so that makes that work. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? You've got that set up. And we can change our size here. So scale factor. So I want to make this smaller. So let's say I make it a third its size. That's pretty close. So I'm going to hit apply on that. And now the table is a third of its size. So it's more realistic now. Cool. So that's how we import an object. All right.